sort of into work. And first item of business we have is the minutes, April 15th and April 30th. You don't have a motion to approve those.
I have one minor comment.
Valerie, can you hear this?
Yes.
She's submitted for CWC.
Yeah, no, actually, they're really good, Valerie. The April 15th it's formatted just a little bit differently. And than the April 30th. And on April 30th, you show consortium members and staff, but it only says members on April 15th. And it makes probably more sense to do the formatting as that you had for April 30th. A tiny little detail. And then on April 30th, it didn't show any Zoom members, but it seems like there were some Zoom people on the 30th. Or was that was when we were 100% virtual and didn't have anybody else?
That was everybody that was on Zoom that day.
On the 30th?
Yeah.
Okay, which is blank. It doesn't show anybody on Zoom.
Oh.
On the 30th anyway.
Oh, I'll go back and revise and clarify that.
Okay.
So should we just have consortium members present and then staff? Okay. And then when advisory comes, we'll have advisory committee.
That's right. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Break it out that way. Did you hear that part, Valerie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
And a tiny little detail, but otherwise just really excellent. And I like that you have the logo on the 15th. It wasn't there on the 30th, but
That'll be there on the final.
yeah, I know. You must have been
Are you
happy
making
like
a
that.
motion, Amber?
What?
Are you making?
Oh, I'll make a motion to approve with those minor amendments.
Okay.
I'll second.
Moved and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay. Business item. Request for reimbursement. Let's do that one first, then maybe Matt will come popping in on the
Yeah.
consortium bylaws, okay? Is that okay with you guys? Okay.
Yes.
We'll go with 3B. Request for reimbursement, both such stock from, this is gonna take a long time. Valerie.
I have
you
a
got it.
question though.
Okay, good.
Why do you have a separate post office box for this?
I can speak, maybe I can speak to that, because we originally set it up as the county post office, right, Valerie?
Yeah.
And then I think it was an application to the state for the, what number, not the EIN, but the other one that allows us to get grants, the EU. I don't know, Kevin told me, they thought they needed a separate post office box because it's a separate entity. That's what I heard. I didn't make this request because
Yeah, Matt had asked me to get the post office box. I don't remember the reasoning, but I think it had something to do with formalities needed for the separate consortium since it's independent from the county.
I think that
I mean, I will say we have several things coming to post office box 200 here that are other agency stuff, but.
How much was it? 70 bucks?
110 a year.
Oh, 110? I guess we need to find out if that's or not. It's the same thing.
Oh, may I ask Eileen that question?
Eileen, yeah, she's here to ask questions.
Eileen, do you, I hate to question Matt and he's not here. Is that, important that the consortium have a separate PO box separate from the county PO box?
I don't know that it matters all that much. I mean, I think that as long as it's pretty clear that a county person is managing the administrative functions of the consortium, I think that's fine. Since they're both public entities, I don't know that it makes a big, for housekeeping purposes, it might be tidier to have everything go into a designated PO box, but I don't know that there's a legal issue there.
Okay. And that's probably, you think that's what Matt was thinking, Valerie?
I think Eileen, I think it might have originated with Kevin,
Sure.
wanting,
Sure.
doesn't the consortium make an application to the state for a separate identification number as an entity?
Yes, it does, but I don't know, I don't think there's where you get your mail, I don't think is relevant to that.
Okay. All right, that's where I thought it originated from, so. So we wanna table that or just not deal with it right this
I
time?
mean, we had MDC, we had CDA, Morrow Ed Foundation.
Well, CDA and court is probably not the best. I mean, a little firewall may have been
Just a post office box. I mean, we get the mail and put it in their distribution box, just like everybody else. Yeah. We don't open it.
Okay. So, the bylaws, you guys wanna?
There it is.
There it is.
Hi.
That one, 1 o'clock.
For some reason I had it in too. Apologies.
You aren't the only person, so.
Oh, Penny.
Okay, we're gonna jump back to, okay, let's do it in the order then, because, we'll talk again about the ballot channel, but we're on, 3A, we approved the minutes and the adoption of the consortium bylaws now, so.
Okay, well, I again apologize for being late. And we have the bylaws, it's in your packets. As we go through there, we are looking for a motion to approve the bylaws, though we did have changes that we had instituted. We have Eileen on, online as well, and, can answer any of those questions. The two areas that we had, most of the changes were on the composition of the advisory committee, which as we get this going, we'll have them included in our regular meetings. And also the budgetary process, which is outlined. Eileen, do you have those open before you? I'm trying to get logged in.
I have a hard copy in front of me. I did it the old fashioned way, so I wouldn't
Oh.
have two screens to manage.
That's a good call.
Sometimes the old ways are better.
Well, I think they looked good to me. I swear this morning I had a question when I was reading it online, but.
Any discussion or questions? If not, I would,
Lisa's still reading that.
Okay.
So I feel
Yeah.
like this gets to.
yeah,
Just a comment, our advisory committee is going to have a little bit of education on 190s and public meeting laws. So we'll probably have to do some education there.
Okay,
Yeah. Because I have a feeling several of them have not been involved
done
in it.
that sort of thing before, okay.
Yep,
Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the bylaws?
I will make a motion to approve the bylaws as presented with changes.
Your second,
I'll second that.
moved in second, any further discussion?
I would just like to say that I'm still uncomfortable with the budget stuff. I just still think we should just do the full form budget. With so much money coming in from other places and back and forth, Eileen said it's gray area and we're just. Instead of going the high road, we're kind of taking the medium road again and just, I don't know, I just feel like. that little bit of extra effort just gives us the A mark instead of the C mark and.
What aspect are you feeling like that we aren't?
Just this, it just says that we're substantially complying with that law instead of, just complying with it. Why can't we just comply with the law? It just seems,
It's not a law that we have to comply with. That,
I
and-
understand
and
that.
The minute
think I
you do
understand.
something wrong, then you're in trouble for it.
Yeah,
But I don't know that we're gonna receive money. It very likely could be the county on behalf of the consortium receiving money.
I mean, we are going to be exploring those, and even if the county is receiving the money, we might be a subrecipient or it designated for us to manage those projects. And so, my anticipation is that we would have budget to do certain projects and be the front face of any monies, even if it has to go through the county, because of recipient requirements in the federal government. So I anticipate having a budget and showing these revenues coming through and having expenditures likewise, on those items. So, we really want to make it a clean water consortium, budget, not county or port. It's a combined area set up for where the advisory boards would have good indication and involvement on it some way or another.
I just have a question. How come you thought, why do you say that you didn't think that we would have any money anymore?
I think that we would have a budget, an operating budget, that would just be money coming in and money going out on paper. But I'm assuming that the county is going to handle the funds.
Well, it does talk about budget procedures and appointing a budget officer.
Right, which is,
Well, the handling the funds is a fiscal agent.
yes,
Right, which
Which
is
is the
separate from the budget,
correct.
right?
Yeah, the county's handling the money.
And we have a bank account for
Mhm.
the consortium, that you already have money in.
So we need a revenues and we need an expenditures
And
for the water consortium.
it was in the IGA and that the fiscal agent supplies a financial statement to the board members every month. So we're gonna have good controls and good look at it.
Yes.
It's gonna be
It's
all.
their
it's gonna
budget
be
that
all-
follows the
Everybody's
process.
gonna be able to see it. It'll be sent out with a packet.
Yeah.
And we have a meeting that, everybody's gonna see it. And
If I could offer just a observation or a contribution that might be helpful. I mean, the process that is described here in the revised bylaws, every piece of that is consistent with what you would have to do under the local budget law. There's notice, there's hearings, there's a budget officer. All of that stuff is, I actually made more explicit in the bylaws than you would necessarily have to follow. Because I agree that particularly given the history of the situation that you guys have been formed to address, you're going to have a formal public profile, and there are certain people in the community are going to take a strong interest in your operations. So that was what was kind of, despite the fact that there isn't a specific law that you're required to follow under the budget law because you're kind of in that gray area. What I proposed in your bylaws is actually almost identical to what any other public entity would have to do, that is required to follow local budget law. So it is slightly less formal than what, a taxing entity would have to do, but it's not very much different at all. It's a pretty conservative approach to budgeting, if that helps.
Yeah, that is in that.
Yeah, that LRS reference too. Can I just ask a question before we vote? We don't address the fiscal agent in our bylaws, but it's in the it's in the intergovernmental agreement. Is that okay that the fiscal agent is in one and not the other, Eileen?
I think so. I think that it's within the board's discretion to name a fiscal agent, which you do through your agreement. I don't think the bylaws need to refer to that. That's kind of an operational question as opposed to a governance question. So ultimately, you guys are going to have budget processes that you follow, but the day-to-day, the day-to-day operations of who manages the money is within the discretion of the board under your governing authority. So I don't think it matters that much. And we could certainly add it, but I don't think that it's necessary.
Okay, no, thank you for that explanation, I'm satisfied. So there was a motion and a second on the table.
Yeah.
Right, oh, more questions?
Yeah, any more further discussion?
I guess I want to read this section one more time because I thought we said what did we say last time that we were gonna do?
Yeah, this is different than what we said.
Yeah, that's not what we talked about.
With the budget officer?
With the budget process and,
Because I didn't read this all the way down either, because I was under the same impression Lisa was. That's why my comments, but now it looks like we're going through the full
budget process.
pretty much.
The conversation we had before was that we would substantially comply with the budget law as it applies to intergovernmental entities. And we talked about that you guys don't really even qualify under that requirement, but we needed to have some kind of budget process in place. So in terms of substantial compliance, what you have spelled out here is as close to compliance as you can get. That's essentially the process that you would follow if you were required to act like a IGA under that statute. So it is probably more than substantial compliance. It's really more compliance. I think the only difference would be that if you ended up having to go to court to defend your budgeting processes, your defense would be, well, we're doing more than the law requires. So, I think we're fine. You may find that the process as it's spelled out here is more cumbersome than you want, but I don't think you could make it more legally compliant if you tried.
Well, I think that addresses what the objections were voiced to a minute ago.
Yeah, it covers me. I'm good with, I actually didn't.
No, this is not what I agreed to at the last meeting. This is not what I said. Because the big part of this is notification of the budget and having to have 14-day notice and 8-day notice. That's the part that I wanted to get rid of, that we just have a budget meeting and approve a budget. Our budget is running through the county's budget process. It's already going through this process.
Well, I've supported that from the beginning because we're doing it in the law and we're going to be open about the process. So I guess it comes down to, you want to amend the motion to change that there, right?
I guess I want to know what we really talked about last time, because I thought that's what we talked about.
You're not wrong.
Okay.
I objected to it and I voted no, because I thought we needed to go a little higher bar than we went. And so, in my mind, I'm okay with this. In your mind, you're not, but.
Right.
Maybe Eileen what prompted you to make those changes, Eileen?
Well, my recollection of the conversation was that the recommendation was to substantially comply with the laws as they apply to IGAs who have to follow budget law. So starting from there, and then factoring in the fact that, in my opinion, particularly given your public profile, some kind of responsible monetary management process is important to have. You could just defer it to the county and let this kind of become a subset of what the county does, but you are a separate standalone legal entity. The IGA created an intergovernmental entity, not a department of the county. So in my opinion, if somebody were to come back and say, you guys are not budgeting properly, or you're spending money contrary to law, or some allegation like that, which by the way is personal to the board members. I mean, if somebody proves that you're not following the law, then each of you is legally responsible on your own. So what I prepared there was what I think most lawyers would do, which would be, this is the conservative approach that I would recommend, so that if you end up having to defend your the way that you're managing your money, you can show that you have been as legally compliant as you could be, particularly given the fact that you don't necessarily have to be this particular. You can make it a less cumbersome process if you choose to, but as an attorney advising the board, my recommendation is going to be to minimize your risk, which would be to be more careful maybe than you need to be.
I mean, my thought is, and I don't know if this mirrors what Lisa's is, I want the consortium to make all the financial decisions. And I don't want it, I want it to be able to, I want it to be, of course, open to the members and the public, but I want it to be able to move at a substantial, to move along, and not be cumbersome. Is that kind of what your thought is, why you want it the other way?
It is, and I guess I didn't really think we were going to be handling funds. I thought the county was going to be handling funds as the fiscal agent, even though we're approving a budget.
Well, I mean,
You know.
the county will handle the funds, but we still have a budget showing how we spend it, and we just direct them to receive or expend on our behalf, is what my expectation is.
The county will receive funds on behalf of the consortium.
That's what we did when we appointed the fiscal agent, right?
Yes. So they are holding the funds for us, but they do not expend any funds without direction from the board. And so we still need to have a budget saying, here's how we're expending, but the items, and then when we have those invoices, I send it to them, have it signed off. And anything over $25,000, we bring to you to sign off and approve.
Only
Invoices.
us and only us, not the BOC,
Not the BOC.
not the county budget committee.
No,
So that's not going through budget committee,
through
through the county.
through this the CWC budget committee.
Process.
They're our fiscal agent, more or less they're our bank. And they're holding on to the money
Right.
for it, and we have our budget. And our budget is separate from the county and not, so the budget meetings we're having for the county Thursday and Friday talks nothing about CWC outside of the amount that's being contributed by the county.
So that's why I think we should.
But that's not what Kevin said. He said it was gonna be a department budget.
He just said that they weren't going to run it through budget committee. So
Well,
without a committee and without a budget committee,
Well,
then
no, I think he's talking about the 60,000 that we both committed to originally fund it. The port and the county in the IGA says they will do an original, they would do a yearly 60,000, just like they do the broadband. That's, I think, what he's talking about. That's only CWC money in the county budget, correct?
yes,
Not its operating money, not its,
where's the money being housed right now from the press?
so we've received it.
City of Workman.
I'd have to check on that, yeah.
well, he said he set up a separate fund,
Fund.
but it's
And-
electronically separate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I apologize, Kevin asked if he needed to be here. He's wrapping up our budget books to get those out this afternoon. And so I told him that's the priority at this point, so, so he's not here to reacquaint. As it comes into the county, we have it in our mixed funds. So it's mixed with county money, but it's designated as a reserve fund where it's set up that we know exactly how much we have for it and can be made available for that.
But it never goes through a budget process.
It never goes through the county budget process, so that's why we need this in some form or another.
But you're receiving money on behalf of the consortium. Morrow County is. That has to be in your budget. I'm not ready to approve this. I guess that's where
I
I'm
guess
at.
I'm with you. I think we should
We
get some
better-
more information.
Okay, all right, then, we'll
Make
take
sure we
that.
know what we're doing.
Well, when you say the county is receiving money on behalf of the Clean Water Consortium, if we get a check to the Clean Water Consortium, the county is receiving it and putting it into the Clean Water Consortium account. If the Morrow County is getting a grant through Morrow County and then directing it to Clean Water Consortium, that's, that is a little bit, we need to capture it in our Clean Water Consortium, but that could also be as a subrecipient order, and there would be a budgetary item of coming in and sending down. We do have 2 items that we are requesting that would be based on that, but we really haven't got into any major projects for the Clean Water Consortium where it would be Clean Water Consortium money. As we get it set up, our desire is every request we're making goes directly Clean Water Consortium as much as possible. So it doesn't go through this twisted line of, it's the county's money, it's going to Clean Water, it's just Clean Water Consortium money, except for the amounts that the port and the county are contributing to it.
And I thought when Kevin explained that to us before, it was a compartmentalized.
Compartmentalized, not department. So it's compartmentalized as a fund within the county's coffers, but it's not mixed in with the other county budgets. We do this for several other special districts, and it's not part of our budget. It is accounted by our treasurer because they have to say, we're holding this money for these different entities, including the Morrow County School District. We receive money for them. And
For
that-
special districts,
for special
which are
districts and such.
required to go through
The budget
this
process.
public budget process. This IGA is not required to do.
So we do have another one that's exactly kind of set up the same way. The treasurer takes care of it. It is not a special district. Trying to think which one it actually is, and we are a direct fiscal agent for it. And those contributions are not in our budget at all. They're in our funds, but they're not in our budget because they're accounted for through their budget process, which is similar to what we're doing here. So the fiscal agent agreement locks in that reserve fund that can be identified and say, here's their funds, we're just holding it for them. So it's not part of their budget, the county's budget, it's part of our budget. And those funds cannot be spent unless the board acts, or if it's under $25,000 in the budgeted item that I can act on.
Sort of like our banker, they just hold your money.
Yeah.
in the account. But we have to do our own budgeting. May I ask Eileen another question? Eileen, yeah, and I couldn't find where I had read it, electronically this morning, but under C, Budget Committee, just says the board shall establish a budget committee consisting of all the members of the board and, if possible, at least an equal number of representatives or recipients of the services provided by the consortium. I'm not sure what that means. I mean, the plain reading, I mean, how would we go about doing that? Because we're not sure who is going to receive our services yet. So how would we go about identifying those people? And then it also goes on to say appointed members shall not be officers, agents, or employees of the consortium. So are the chair and vice chair considered officers of the consortium?
They're not officers. Well, yes, they're officers of the consortium, but this is referring to the appointed members. So you would have your board, and similarly to what you would do under local budget law, you have your board, and then if you were following the technical requirements of the budget law, you would have to try to find an equal number of citizen members. When we talked about this the last time, my recollection was that if you're going to create a budget committee of sorts, it would be your board plus a number of people that your board appoints to serve on the budget committee. So, and there was some discussion about having those be members of your advisory committee or other stakeholders that might have an interest in the budget. So I think that language was designed to sort of give you guys the discretion to decide who should be on it.
I think we really need to pare this down to what we think we're really gonna do. That's what I would like to do. And have some more conversations with Kevin.
Okay.
So, if we're just having a discussion, Chair, if I might, so back to my original question, the board, that's this board, the four of us, shall establish a budget committee consisting of the four of us, and if possible, at least an equal number of representatives or recipients of the services provided by the consortium. And how is that our
I think that's a-
advisory
I
committee?
think that's a broad term, like the citizens.
Okay.
And
Are we setting ourselves up to be in some trouble if we have four people that are that are not receiving the services? Or do we somehow need to identify that they're representative of people who are receiving services? I'm just being really
Yeah,
particular
because
about
we
that.
already have some people on there that we don't directly receive what they're gonna be offered.
Right, but we haven't yet, I appointed a budget.
No, we haven't appointed them, but there's some people that have been discussed as possible board, budget members and haven't. I mean, I asked Debbie Rady if she would be a board, considers serving on the budget committee. She said yes.
she's on our advisory.
She's on our advisory
Yeah,
committee.
advisory,
Yeah.
but then they said, then the talk was, we'll have the advisory committee also be the budget
Right.
committee, correct?
Right.
We only need four.
Huh?
We only need four by law.
Yeah,
We don't need anything by law.
Yeah.
But
We
that's
have
the
four
problem
or
here.
more.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what I
Yeah.
heard talked about was four or maybe more.
And I thought it would be great to have our advisory board serve.
Serve
We're
as the
asking them to
budget
serve
committee.
on the rest of this.
Yeah,
Why not
they're an
serve
advisory
as
group.
budget members?
They advise to us, the board, how to do the budget, so. But there's one person right there, well, I don't know, maybe Debbie is a direct recipient.
She
of
won't
services.
be.
No, but so you
Yeah.
have possibly one person who might be a good budget member who's disqualified if we got a strict reading of that anyway, right? So kind of what you
So,
consider.
but she could be a representative of a recipient, not a direct recipient. So I think it's worded broadly. I just want to make sure I'm clear, because I do remember some discussion that the advisory committee would also serve on the budget committee. And if we understand that, we could either change this language or just have that on the record that we understand that we could also we would meet the objective of the budget committee under C if we appointed the advisory committee to also be members of the budget committee.
And you could change that just to citizens like you would for the regular budget process if you want to take out those qualifiers. And then you guys, I mean, ultimately your board has the discretion to decide who the appointed members are. So if you just leave it open like as citizens, then you guys can name whomever you like. And those could be the people who actually have are stakeholders or want to have a say over the process. So you guys can decide who those people are in any case.
Would that put us at any kind of disadvantage legally or anything if we did change it to that?
You asking me that? No, I don't think so. I mean, essentially, remember we're basically crafting your budget process in this moment. So if you, I mean, legally speaking, if you were a taxing entity, it would be the language in the statute is an equal number of, I believe, appointed citizen members or something like that. And there's no pre-qualifications to that for anybody. So if you don't want to have any pre-qualifications, that's fine. You just ultimately get to decide who gets to be on your budget committee.
That would eliminate the.
So Lisa, do you think it's just gonna be too cumbersome? What is your stance on why not just go through this process that's outlined? Just because of the extra meetings?
It's a
or-
lot of process
Mhm.
and you have to, and I don't think why do we need a budget hearing? Why do we need
Well,
that?
to involve the public is I mean,
Well, if the public will get advertisement of our meeting and know that we're going to discuss a budget. A public hearing involves another meeting,
a public hearing also gives them a voice.
so does the first meeting.
Not necessarily. We listened at the hearing, they are invited to come speak. And at our meetings, they get their 3 minutes up front and that's it.
It's
Yeah.
the same thing, though.
Yes and no, I guess.
I guess what I'm seeing is this just details exactly what the law says, so
Yeah.
why don't we just say we're gonna follow
That's
the
what I
law
would like
of
to
the
do.
special district, which I don't think we need to.
I know you don't think we need to, but why not go above and beyond? Just seems like.
Well, let's see. Before we move to a vote on this, Eileen, is there anything that we cannot perform right now without this set of bylaws being passed or enacted? Is there anything are we holding up any of our committee, or I mean, our consortium activities or functions? Maybe not.
Likely not. I mean, well, and to answer that question broadly, David, there is no legal requirement for you to even have bylaws. I mean, I mean, as far as you're going to say something there, Matt, I can see that. I mean, unless your agreement requires you to have bylaws, which it does, you're basically complying with your own agreement.
When, through the process where we registered with the Secretary of State, we were supposed to pass bylaws within 90 days of the formation of the body, which
Okay.
we're over that time frame now. That expired about May 15th.
And where that puts you legally is basically out of compliance with legal requirements for a corporation. Whether the outcome, potential negative outcome from that would kind of depend on if somebody decided to sue you claiming that you're not complying with the requirements of the law, then you have to explain why not. So,
Eileen, doesn't that also prevent us from applying for grants directly as a consortium instead of through this county process?
it could. I mean, if your grantors are going to require proof that you're a validly formed and operating entity, then they may ask for copies of your bylaws. And if you don't have current bylaws, then that could affect your ability to get funding.
I thought that already came up with one of our grants.
If I could propose a solution so we could have some action today, but continue the discussion on the budget committee. I would proffer to strike 5.2C and just replace it to say reserve for future budget committee. And we pass the bylaws in that way. And then we can have at our next meeting a little bit more back and forth, resolve the issue on necessity of public hearing, notice, and a composition of the budget committee. Just so I can say, we've got our bylaws, so I can report checkbox there, and yet we could still continue the discussion on budget committee.
Yeah, they're easy to amend.
Well, and I can offer a similar thought there that I know you and I talked briefly about, Matt, which is what we could do is in the bylaws, just in that section, say, the board shall adopt a budget procedure that substantially complies with whatever, and you would do that by separate policy. So essentially, the bylaws would then authorize you to adopt a budget process. You would do it by separate, like some sort of like resolution policy, in which case you just can talk about that specifically and adopt whatever it is that looks like. And one of the advantages to doing it that way is it's relatively easy to amend it. If you adopt a policy that describes your budget process, and then you find after the first round that this is too cumbersome and it's not working, it's a fairly simple thing to amend a policy, where it's a little bit more complicated to amend your bylaws. So there's.
Sorry, Eileen, sorry. I was
Yeah.
just gonna suggest the same thing, that we go right back up to the first paragraph and do exactly that, so that we will establish a process for, and we, by resolution, policy.
Yeah, it would be something to the effect of the board will establish a budget process by written policy or by resolution or words to that effect. And basically from there, you could adopt your bylaws with just the understanding that you need to continue this conversation about budget separately.
We could even amend the bylaws, that's pretty easy to do too,
Okay,
probably.
is that pretty much the consensus we have here now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just clarification, Matt, what about, section 5.3 bylaw amendments? Keep that, and, so you were proposing that we just strike out C, the budget committee.
I mean, or we strike out C and proffer with Eileen's language of that the board shall adopt a policy on the budget process. And if you'd like to draft some quick language on that, Eileen, or outline it for a resolution, and that way it just makes it very open instead of having a reserve for a budget committee. And that allows us to discuss it as a separate policy.
So my suggestion, I think, was that we go back up to the top of 5.2 and say that the board will establish
Oh,
a
yes.
budget procedures by a written policy.
So strike all of
So we
5.2.
we're striking all of
Oh,
it,
I read
and
while
developing
Eileen's
that
doing that.
policy
How
separate.
about
All of 5.2?
That way our bylaws can be approved. And then.
Well, While Eileen's doing that, is it gonna be easier to just withdraw this motion or to try to amend it?
Withdraw.
We have a motion on the floor.
Did I make that, or Tamara?
You did.
You did.
Okay, I will withdraw my motion.
Do I have to second that?
You just have to agree.
Okay,
Yeah,
so then the motion would be to approve what's presented minus section 5.2.
I would have just a motion to amend.
Mhm.
And we'll have Eileen give us that language.
Okay.
And then we'll have a vote on that, and then we have a vote on the bylaws as amended. So we track the action and that in two separate items. So Eileen, do you have some magic language for replacing 5.2?
I put it in the chat.
Okay,
Oh,
It's one sentence. Basically, what that would be is in lieu of what's currently proposed in 5.2, it would say budget procedures, period. The board shall establish a budget process by separate resolution.
The board shall establish a budget process by separate resolution.
plain and simple.
Yep.
Yes.
Works for me.
Would you like to make that motion since you've got the
I
chapter?
will make that motion. I will make a motion to approve the bylaws as presented, replacing 5.2 with the sentence that says, the board shall establish a budget procedure by separate resolution.
okay, we'll hear a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, then moved and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
right.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Okay.
All right,
Now I want one to approve the
yeah,
bylaws.
what was the next motion?
Didn't we just do them? Didn't we just shoot her
We just
motion
did.
was to
Her
approve
motion
all?
combined them.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah, we
thought,
did
I was
that.
thinking,
We did that.
okay,
Okay.
so we're done with that one, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then, we're down to the PO box.
So this was Valerie just getting set up for the PO box. She had to pay for it out of her own money. She's asking for reimbursement of the cost for that. She went down and took care of that. So we'd ask for your approval to do that. Since we don't have a budget, that precludes my budgetary authority right now. That's one reason why I'd like to get to the budget. So we're asking just for a motion to approve the reimbursement for the post office setup.
I guess we, before you got here, we were asking why we needed a post office box. What
This
was
is-
the reasoning.
This is part of the reason is just to separate from the county the receipt of mail. If if at in the future point, the management of the CWC was outsourced to a third party, they could continue with the mail from that without making a transition, and everything on the grants wouldn't have to be changed. So we just created a new mailbox to do that.
So it's for the grants. Is that what you're?
Grants, other kind of communications that we might receive and might be privy to. So,
I don't have a real big problem with it. We just seem to.
No.
I don't either, just one more post office box to check every day.
oh, our county has a lot of them. So.
I know.
Okay. Your motion to reimburse Valerie? for
I'll move that we reimburse Valerie for the post office box.
And I will second.
moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, guess that covers the business. Other business? Matt, you got anything, or anybody have anything?
The one thing I would like to report is I did go for the SB 5531 bill, the lottery bond funding Capcom request for West Glen. Went on the 9th, and we didn't have the box check that I traveled over 100 miles, so it went really long and they didn't call my name. So, but they had so many people testifying that they resorted to on the 16th, and I was in Salem for the 16th, and I asked if I could come. They said so. I was first in line, and actually received a question back for clarification, which not many of the testimonies did. So I have talked to Representative Smith saying, hey, this is a priority for us. We want to get this taken care of. And the committee seemed very open to it. A lot of the requests through that was, there's a great one with 100 students there for the aquatic center and Clackamas and that.
You were outnumbered, is that what you're saying?
Well, I was outnumbered, but the committee, I mean, they were there. I used the tagline, it's time to put the water bottles away and put pipe in the ground. And they were responsive. And so, just to let you know, there's $2 billion worth of requests. There's only $500 million of available funds. We're an outside shop. I think the value of it and some of the people that we have pushing for it, plus the La Guama testimony the week before, I think we have a window of opportunity that I'm fairly optimistic about the funding. You hold your breath, and next 6 weeks, who knows what'll happen, but we will be efforting behind the scenes as well, continuing. So just wanted to give you a report on that testimony there.
And tell me again the amount you requested.
Ours was $2.86 million. We are looking as we shot off at the last full meeting we had, looking at $500,000 of a match, which would be a big chunk from what we have right now. But we're also thinking of going to some of the businesses and that to help alleviate that impact on our discretionary funds for CWC. But I figure that's what we got from CREZ to do. So we'll see what we can do on that.
And if I may, that's for water only.
Water only.
Mhm.
I don't think they would be too responsive on sanitary. There's a lot of sanitary sewer requests, and ours is different, more impactful.
Yeah, yeah. So that's really good.
Also with the county's Business Oregon project, we're just getting very close with our technical reports and some of our different items that we're putting out for that. We are targeting, and we should have confirmation this week, for the outreach meeting for West Glen residents for June 18th. We are shooting for either the senior center there in Boardman or the Catholic Church there. We just kind of want to make it very neutral and open to the people. We will have full bilingual posters out, everything, and we should be anticipating sending out those invites very soon, as soon as we finalize the date and the location. So we will be sending out 2 actual property residents within the West Glen area to be included in that. So have had a lot of good discussions. The engineering reports are being finalized, and Rev is, our community outreach group has already got some good things, and Willamette Partnership has some good information on kind of breakdown of other options that people have talked about, just kind of the approach on pros, cons, and why some of them won't work and or reliably work. And we're gonna bring all that together and have a discussion with the public. Then we'll have another meeting in August and September. Boardman is doing a study starting June 1st on what their out of district, out of city water charges will be. We'll have that by September, at least the inklings of where that's gonna be, so we can certifiably say, if we were to hook into Boardman, this is what it would cost for at least the first little bit. If that's the option, so we can have full disclosure with the residents saying, here's a way to get water, here's the other ways, and here's the different costs of these. And so this one's gonna be a first meeting to say, here are the options, not just to sit and listen, but let's talk about these options and see where they fall in with the residents. And then as we go further, we'll have more information to finalize. So we're looking forward to that. We'll definitely let you as members of the CWC know about it. We're gonna really turn it over to Rev to do the presentations and that, but if you wanna be fly on the walls or whatnot, happy to do it. If you just like a report back, we'd be happy to do that as well, so.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else?
that's all I've got unless
I
there's
got
any questions.
I think maybe this goes
Don't
to
you think
Tim.
we should be a part of that? I'm not.
Well, if it's a public meeting, we can sure attend, but I don't, the purpose, do you remember, we've been beat up a lot by the state and federal agencies for not directly engaging the community. And this is the third party entity engaging with the community, which will be both listening and explaining. And then whatever they come up with will come before us, but certainly you can listen.
But isn't that why we got an advisory committee made up of members of both
Sure.
communities?
Sure, I think,
To
I
help
think
with
it's,
that outreach?
I
mean-
think it is, but those are primarily lay people, and public engagement may or may not be their forte.
And I particularly think, you know, the three representatives from Boardman, we could, four, sorry, yes. We could engage with them and say, and get them prepped up on this and say, hey, we'd like your help and your participation and encouraging people to come. I think that's a very appropriate tool for the advisory committee.
Okay.
And make that available to the ones from the Oregon area as well, but I
Okay,
know we have certain residents of West Glendon on our advisory committee, so it'd be
okay.
very helpful. So yeah, sorry we didn't bring that up, but that's a great tool.
Okay.
Speaking of the advisory committee, have you reached out to all of them and have all of them been brought on board?
I have not, I have confirmed their phone numbers and we're making calls to get those on. Want to get their emails so we can get notifications out to them. I mean, we got Debbie's item, but I was talking with Brandon and got the phone numbers off theirs and confirming those and getting them from Aaron as well. So we'll be making those calls and make sure that that gets taken care of.
With that in mind, we need to switch our meetings to evenings.
Yes. I would say that would be beneficial, particularly for the advisory committee to be involved.
For everyone to be involved.
So,
And along that line, I'd love to have a regularly scheduled time, like once a month, cause it's, poor Valerie spends lots of hours and Matt trying to figure out what works best for us. If there's and then if we don't need to meet, then we just cancel it.
20 minutes late for this one.
I know, there's just a lot going on, so, I mean, if it would be a regular time, and date and location of the month, then people know.
And we're set to meet every other month. Our regular meeting, would actually be in June. And so if we wanted to set it up on, you know, a certain week and certain evening, I'd be happy to support that. Any recommendations, and be happy to.
Tuesdays are good for me. Thursdays are kind of out.
Tuesdays.
Tuesdays. I think we should have it before the 18th, obviously, if we're going to invite our
I do too.
advisory committee to help with the, or,
Yeah, I think we should have one in the next couple weeks. Because we need to get introduced to the advisory
Yes,
committee and
Mhm. So did you say a date or you said?
no, I just said on Tuesdays, on
Mhm.
what about June
Thursday.
10th?
June 10th.
Or,
That's
Yeah.
Tuesday.
I guess, I can't think of anything.
How about the
Like
week-
evenings
how
or,
about a week before that?
The 3rd?
things Memorial. So, the weekend after that.
It's this weekend.
It's this weekend.
Yeah, June 3rd, I'm open.
Hold on,
Actually,
Sorry,
June
the
3rd
weekend.
works better for me than the 10th, but
Saturday. It's a Saturday.
Yeah, June 3rd.
June 3rd,
Oh,
would 6 o'clock be too early or too late?
Sounds perfect.
Perfect.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock on the 3rd.
And I will tell you that I have talked to Isabel. I saw Myra Colleen at a grade school concert. And went over and talked to her and I did get her contact info, so that I could pass it on.
If you wouldn't mind shooting that, that'd be great.
Yes. And I think Anna Maria Rodriguez knows, but I'm not positive. And I did have a conversation with Cyrus, Site Guzman.
That's really positive, but I think something official is better than just sort of the informal, oh yeah, you've been appointed.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah, they need to know when our meetings are and.
Mhm.
And maybe we could pick a regular date and time location.
Here. And so I wanna put it on the calendar. And
Yeah.
Yes.
If we have a, it might
And-
be,
Probably in this room, since we have a lot of people that's
Okay, that's
available.
the day of the local budget law meeting.
Sure.
And it is in this room.
Mhm.
I believe they'll be gone by 5, so it should be fine.
Mhm.
They don't work best for them.
That's our budget meeting. That's.
so,
It's,
The training
yeah,
it's a-
for the new board members and that.
Got it.
if we're picking a regular time, so we just established the June, that's great, but it'd be nice to hear from. Everyone on the 3rd, what's the ideal time?
Right.
And maybe Matt,
4th of July, doesn't it?
maybe Matt, you could communicate that also, that we'll have our first meeting with the board and the advisory committee, and then we can establish. A regular time and location.
I think that's good.
So the first Tuesday, is that what you think?
We're gonna meet with them first
And ask them.
and see what,
I have a question for Tamara and maybe Lisa too is, what's the relationship right now with GSI with this group?
With this group? Yeah, that's sort of kind of a Matt question.
Yeah, we don't have a contracted, service with them. at this
Okay,
time.
that's, and I wasn't wanting to get, the
We were-
reason why is,
Mhm.
I think it'd be really good if, GSI will be or is, developing the plan for this group as far as projects as they're come online, no?
We don't have anybody of a technical nature to do that, which is why we talked about, spending consortium money to do that. To have somebody like a GSI on contract to
And-
help us with that.
Yeah, I think that's important, and I think it's when we're getting this group on, maybe on the 3rd, if possible, is have somebody say, okay, here's where we're going with this. You know, kind of like a pep talk, like, okay, here's some project, here's a kind of a long-term plan, rather, you know, because everybody's talking West Glen right now.
Right,
And then we hear rumors about wells and stuff, and say, okay, here's kind of where we're going, you know, and just kind of get everybody, like I said, a little. It doesn't have to be something solid, but just, okay, here's kind of where we're, you know, cause I don't think a lot of the advisory people. Or the budget people will know the long range goals or plans, not necessarily goals. I should say more plans for this group. Is that reasonable? I mean,
Well.
they don't
we
kind
can-
of, they kind of know the mission statement, but,
Mhm.
and my second part on that is, I talked to Matt about. I think if we get some solid, plans on the table, I've always thought this with estimated engineering fees. I think we need to go to one of the bigger businesses in Morrow County, we all know who that is, for a big ask, a big one,
Did you see what they just did in Hermiston?
yeah. I know,
They're building a new regional water system and a aquifer storage and recovery.
I know,
And the big business is paying for all of it.
yeah. See, I
I mean,
think,
Lisa's familiar with that,
They pay for everything here.
yeah, I think we need to,
but they have a direct return on the stuff they pay with you. Not the drinking water stuff.
I think we need to,
But they're associated it with it. The perception is they're associated with it,
Yeah, I think that's right.
so.
is there ideas to do this? I mean, because at some point, we have to have some technical engineering group
We do.
guiding us and telling us where to go and what we're
Yeah.
gonna do,
I
right?
think Matt was waiting for bylaws and then we'll probably do some sort of a sole source or an RFP.
Yeah.
And it's, but I think for the first meeting that we have on, June 3rd, I can ask Ronan and his team if they want to report on the roadmap project, because, this group will implement some recommendations, or at least look at them. We're not gonna reinvent the wheel. The roadmap's
No.
coming up with a list of things by August of 2026. And the initial, I think Ronan could speak to that, and I think there's a value in having him do that rather than some of us. I mean, I can do a little bit of it, but I'll see if he's available to do
Every
that.
time I've heard Ronan talk, I get uplifted,
Uh-huh.
because
No, he's great.
yeah, he has solid pipe in the ground ideas, and I think this new people we're bringing in, if they could hear that, I think it would give them ammunition to go out into, not ammunition, I guess, it would give them talking, go out into the community and tell people, what is this group doing? What are they up to? What's going on? And they will have that information
Mhm.
solid.
Don't we have that presentation?
We do, and then the steering committee next week, and the steering
Yeah.
committee meetings for the roadmap project is next week. And
Thursday.
it is Thursday at the Stafford Hansel Building in Hermiston. It'll be a good update of all of the connection of where we've come so far with the connection to a public system, both counties. And then the next phase, if you will be looking at other options where people are probably located, well, I call them the outliers, because they're located a fair distance from any public water system. So I can see, I mean, if his schedule allows, I'm sure he'd be happy to do that
I
just
sure
as part
like,
of that.
I sure like to hear him talk, and I mean, who knows more about the Laguama water situation than just, I don't think anybody.
Even if it has to be by Zoom, I think
Sure.
it'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, Zoom's fine.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, that's just fun, to kind of launch the advisory people and give them a little pep talk.
So the $20,000 that we're getting from Business Oregon,
Mhm.
where is that?
That's
Isn't
at the
that,
county.
isn't that something that, I mean, what are we spending? Have we already spent all that money?
So the Business Oregon one for the technical feasibility study is the ones that's giving us the cost and pricing for West Glen. It's covering the costs of Meyer Architect and Engineering, as well as part of the cost for Rev to do the outreach that we're doing in June in this 10% feasibility. That gave us the numbers to take to the state legislature for them. So that money was given to, that money was given to the county before CWC was even
Mhm.
thought of, or at least brought into existence. And so that's being run through the county. We're giving reports on that. And that will be spin out by August, September with this project.
And the other 20,000 was for,
So we
Sewer.
are doing sewer and water, so they're gonna have plans for both. So yeah,
I've been holding my thumb on this page, so it doesn't go away, but I wanna
What's
read this
that
to you. It's part of our agreement with Oregon Health Authority.
Ah.
So I would like to read this to you. Minimum distribution for treatment and provisioning of potable water. OHA shall distribute at least 50% of the funds provided by funder under the original agreement dated 30 October 2023, 50% of $1.933 million to pay for services that address treatment and maintenance, potable water provisioning and testing according to sections 2A and 2B and 2C respectively of this agreement. For the additional funds provided by this agreement, which is another $581,000, and for any unspent and uncommitted funds as of the date of this agreement that are not required to be used to pay for services that address sections 2A, 2B, 2C, OHA shall provide the funds to Morrow County or the city of Boardman to assist with payment for the extension or development of a public drinking water system for residents that rely on private domestic wells unless using funds for this purpose would be inconsistent with the other requirements of this agreement. OHA shall make distributions from the fund based on contracts for services entered into between OHA and LPHAs and or between OHA and vendors providing the services noted in section 2 of the agreement. OHA may distribute the remainder of the funds for any other purposes indicated in this agreement. So there are going to be dollars that directly will come back to Morrow County.
So one thing that we'd want to look at and review with the BOC at this point, since it's going to Morrow County, is how can we, and if we can get a copy of that letter to see if there's any subrecipient languages or requirements and put it into CWC. So we can put it into these projects and push that way. And so that might be something we want to do. So Morrow County just becomes the thoroughfare to get into this body and get those monies expended this way.
Or it can go to the city board. Money.
Yes.
So Lisa, when does that have to be spent by? Wasn't there rules on that? Had to be used up by 2027?
This is our new and our old combined. Expenditure reports, final expenditure report is July 31, 2027.
So we'd have to, any of that.
2020.
We have to have contracts and things done by 2027, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, if we have
Well, it
I
says
mean-
development. I mean, that's planning and construction.
we can figure a way to spend it.
Absolutely.
And it's 500 and how much, Lisa?
It's about 1.5 million.
So how much of that goes to A, B, and C, which was water and testing and,
Any that they hadn't spent for that purpose.
And so,
so we have to reserve that money for that purpose. Is that correct?
is there any specific breakout on that?
Treatment and maintenance, direct domestic well users, potable water provisioning, and domestic well water screening, testing, and interpretation.
So, I mean, that's one thing we want to discuss with this body
Mhm.
to make sure, and that's the thing, West Glen is a concentrated point of concern for the nitrate issue, but it's not the be all end all. We've got them all. And so we don't want to just throw all our money into that and say, hey, flash bang, we took care of West Glen, we're done. Because this needs to be holistic and far spreading, so widespread. Yes.
In the first project here is 100 residences, which has to include areas on both sides of Paul Smith and Wilson.
Areas on the east side of Paul Smith, is it both sides of Paul Smith?
No, we're running down Paul Smith, so it's, we'd love to get them connected.
I will show you this map.
So, yeah.
You know your neighborhood better than I do.
I think it was originally just the one side. Is this Ronan's map?
So
No,
the
this is-
east side is within the UGB, the west side isn't. But for water, we can go outside of the UGB, so if we were to do sewer, we'd have to keep it on the east side. But where we're concentrating on water, I'd like to make it available to both sides. There's no. It just doesn't make sense to run a pipeline down there and tell people who are impacted they can't have it.
Are there high wells on the west side?
There are some.
Okay.
Yeah, Acres live on that side. Joe Taylor lives on this side. This is high, theirs is high, they're kitty cornered. Across like that.
Well, but Joe's on the west side is 3. His daughter's property or something?
Is she at the-
Different aquifers though, I
Is
think.
she
She's
at
in
the-
Susie's old place.
Oh. So she's at the end quarter.
What are your levels? You're farther out.
Prices is 30-ish, 32, last time we checked. We have an artesian, so ours goes everywhere. We
Oh, wow.
couldn't get it to level out at all because it goes out of ground.
That's
So you
interesting.
don't know where your water's coming from.
You have an RO.
It's too high.
We just tested all the time. Right now, it's fine. Right, it could, but the neighbors are bad and the other neighbors is bad and one neighbor's is good and.
Isn't the standard RO, that's the case, but the more robust RO or the actual full treatment, water filter system can take out some of that, even if it's above 25.
Rice has a whole house system that Lexington pumped it in. But it's probably ruining his septic as well, and you're just pumping it back into the ground, so it's just. It's a catch-22. That we're putting in RO systems that just, they filter it out. Washes in, washes right back into your septic tank, goes right back into the water.
Too bad we couldn't aerate those because that denitrifies it once it reaches oxygen. Does that mean an annual emptying of the septic tank?
No, cause
No,
it's just water.
the
just-
tank
it's
holds
just-
the solids, the water goes
Yeah,
down. the
water just
drain.
goes down there.
Yeah.
And obviously the nitrates are in the water, so they just go out with the baby with bathwater. So you're just continually, you're not gaining anything. By home house filters,
The net. but-
or even the under the sink filters. You're just pumping all that water and you're running water constantly. Literally, his pump runs 24/7 trying to pump that, just to get enough clean water for his house. So the energy costs that go up with it, and
how much was that?
it was about 6,000 or 7,000. And then he had to get the softener on top of that, because you have to have the softener to run because the hard water plugs up the filtration system. Yeah, it's expensive to run one, and then they still get bottled water because they're over
trust
the
it.
30. So you can't trust it.
30 is the treated level?
32, I think, was his.
Must be sitting right on top of a nitrate tank. That's crazy. But that's what
Plant
people are
up the
living
road
with.
and the Potato waste that's sitting getting dumped out there.
Better not be any getting dumped right now. Well, not on our property. City. It's
City.
CSS.
CSS ground, dumping all their product
I
right on the
would-
ground.
Before you got here, just on the record, Matt asked me to go to Salem last week, so it's the Senate Natural Resources and Wildfire Committee. And they heard from a panel of state agencies and Jeff Huntington from the governor's office. And then they had 2 local panels, so I was on one and then there was another local panel. And the objective was to learn more about the Love Guama. Because a number of bills, including 1154, have raised this issue of the Love Guama. So I think it was fairly comprehensive, not comprehensive enough, in my opinion, to understand the distinction between the aquifer issues and the more immediate public health drinking water issues and the various parties and the roles and responsibilities. The nitrate reduction plan was discussed. Overall, I think it's positive and it was a good move, really positive feedback, from the panel of legislators, particularly our 2 more local Eastern Oregon legislators. Representative Levy couldn't be there, but Representative Owens from Southeast Oregon and then Todd Nash was there.
So they were also very supportive, but I think at some point in time, it makes sense to have um, another piece of information that outlines all the different initiatives, which is one of the documents that we developed in-house, and then also with GSI when we were doing the Water Advisory Committee of all of the different issues that are underway, both the groundwater aquifer and the Love Guama issues and the drinking water issues, and who's responsible for what role. But overall, I think the message for this group is there was really positive feedback about the local initiatives that are taking place.
I would question a little bit of that reading what's coming in your guys' packet this week. Rep Levy's ideas of 1154 are a little bit different than supportive.
Oh, and honestly, I have not had the bandwidth to really dig into that. I know a lot of different groups are. I don't know if it will pass. It also felt a little bit like the state agencies were developing that in a vacuum without input. I mean, I don't want to sound critical, but I am objectively critical because the state agencies have a much different role and perspective than we do at the local level. So, they're proposing a lot more monitoring. The Department of Ag role is already well underway. Again, I'm not an expert on it, but I haven't seen the packet yet this one. So that feels pretty positive. And then Matt, we still have the second round of congressional direct spending funding. We need to put a proposal together for, so Matt and I and Ronan and our grant writer of record, Nick Ducote, we came up with an idea and EPA and the congressional delegation said no. It's something other than looking at connections to public drinking water systems. Again, the idea of that second round of funding, the 1.3 million, is to look at other servicing areas that aren't really close to cities. And we had Matt and Nick had made that pitch to Irrigan, and I'm not sure where that is at the time, but Irrigan also wants to drill a well on some property just north of the depot.
I know.
I know.
I've talked to the city manager.
Yes, so
We definitely, I mean, that's quite possible.
it's just they just need a small piece. So that's one option that might make some movement with the city of Irrigan. But that's really the update on that.
But let me ask a quick question. The way, with this congressionally directed spending, that could not be used on private wells, correct? Okay.
That's correct.
See, this is where I think it comes into our money management here. If we have discretionary spending, and I include this big ask we may go to a big company for, and make sure we're using that money for that, and grant money that can be used to see, for non-public. So we're not using money that we don't, or discretionary money in areas that we don't have to, you see. So that's kind of why I was hoping to, not hoping, but it'd be, to get a long-range plan down is with some kind of engineering on what's gonna be needed in the non-public water system hookup area, see, and base our big ask on that, whether it's from one company or
Multiple.
Yeah.
Say that again, did you just say that the federal money can't be used for individual wells?
Correct. Has to be a publicly owned system. So it could be, that's why when I was reading this early this morning, I was looking to see, our bylaw says we can own property and can own capital equipment, which I think is really important. Cause we may need to do that at some point in time. Depending on the outcome of what the roadmap project is researching. Not so much probably with Westland, depending on what that neighborhood wants and how we can move forward with that project. But there are some other areas, yeah, we can't just say, let's deepen a bunch of wells, plus. That's not a reliable source completely either, just.
But we
because-
can do it with the SEP money.
Oh, we can,
Yeah,
okay. that's
we
good.
need a meeting just to talk about, you know, brainstorming, funding,
Yeah,
ideas.
and I think that's
and
what,
they make our list.
Yeah, I think that's what David is talking about too, like maybe we could add that to the agenda now that we're moving beyond just the formation is like, what do we wanna do and how are we gonna prioritize projects and what do they look like? And I did send an email to Ronan and asked if he could be here on the 3rd to give everybody just a sense of some of those ideas, other than what we're thinking about for West Glen, because we put a lot of time and effort, both county and the roadmap project and Willamette Partnership, into looking at options for that greater West Glen area, but we really haven't looked in detail about the other areas. And some of them would be extending a public water system a long distance. Fun fact, I think, I was at the Western Planners Conference in Wyoming last summer, combined it with a summer road trip. And I presented on this, on the Love Guama, the intersection of planning and land use planning and water quality, which is sort of an emerging topic. And afterwards, I visited with a couple of planners from Wyoming, and in Wyoming, the state extends water, sometimes 25 miles to farms, to make sure people have clean drinking water. And they have a whole different structure of government. They don't even have a water resources department. They have the state engineer. But the cities provide it and there's incentives. And I know I shared that at another meeting. And so their funding structure is different. And I think the mining industry pays for quite a bit of that, but it's not unheard of. For sure.
Well, the people in Salem shouldn't be opposed. This is a unique system, or not system, a unique situation we're under here, so they should look at the new ideas, whether it's from Wyoming or somewhere else,
I
right?
would think so. I would
You
think
would
so.
hope so, huh?
I know. And that's also why I felt like the presentation to that Senate committee was a good start, but it was just pretty perfunctory, really.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, even my presentation, what can you say in 5 minutes? And not everybody kept to 5 minutes, but and the state does, they follow a process to declare groundwater management areas and then nothing, which is where we've been here, which is where they are in Malheur County. And it's not a local responsibility or a legal obligation to do anything. It's just some important public policy. Whose role is it? And is it, local? Is it state? I think the legislators need to see that whole picture of how they evolve and what the implications are. So, back in 1990, when they declared the EQC declared the groundwater management area, they said, okay, y'all go forth and have a voluntary Love Guama committee. Well, they met for 30 years. And no funding to implement. And it wasn't until the drinking water emergency was declared that Oregon Health Authority, we were even on the radar screen. Even on the radar screen. And I know I was involved with those Love Guama committees years ago and said, this is a drinking water issue. Why don't we have county public health or Oregon Health Authority and everybody, nobody's held accountable for anything. So I think we need to look at that, how they're created and then what happens next. And of course, we all live in this basin. This is the priority for us right here. But there will be more groundwater management areas declared in the future and critical groundwater areas. And that's a very formal legal process when the Water Resources Department declares a critical groundwater area.
It is a local issue, but I mean, the people at the state have kind of owned it in a way. They've said, we don't want this in Oregon. They haven't said, we don't want this in Morrow County particularly. I mean, when you look at the people who are concerned about what's going on here, you have a wide variety from the governor to, you see what I'm saying? And so it's not just, right at this point, it seems to me as if this, well, just like you just gave your testimony. It wasn't just a Morrow County, problem to them, was it?
I
It
think-
wasn't. Maybe I'm wrong. It
Yeah, I
wasn't,
think
it
we're
wasn't,
gonna-
oh, that's a nice deal. Good luck with that.
I think we have a lot of opportunities for funding.
So
And
there's 3 Guamas, and there's gonna be a 4th shortly, probably at the Pine,
Uh-huh,
and
Well,
probably
and
one
the
in
county-
Klamath,
in Mazama, Klamath.
Klamath Falls.
Uh-huh.
They'll
Is
have
that a
critical-
Guama or a critical ground?
They'll have a critical groundwater.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, they need to fund Morrow County's template to how to solve this problem. Yeah,
we're
we
gonna be
will
the model.
be happy to provide it for you.
Yep.
Just give us some money and we'll show you
Yeah,
how
give
it's
us some
done,
money
right?
and we'll get
And,
right on.
and there's gonna be a lot of different solutions, right? I mean, there's going to be publicly owned systems and there's going to be improvements to private properties that publicly owned. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
And I think as planners and as agencies, we need to be very circumspect when we designate areas for rural residential development, and that's not what people want to hear. So, internally, we're looking at what's the future build out of our rural residential properties. Easily 100 more residences that are gonna tap into the same aquifer, and there's no regulation. They have the same property right as whatever we have, close to 500 in Morrow County in the Guama.
Well, that's
And OHA and DEQ and OWRD, nobody's proposing to change those rules. The county, I don't think, wants to initiate that. But at a minimum, there's another bill. Can't remember what it
1154 does
is.
address that.
What?
1154 does address that.
Sort of, but we already have those designations. And then there's another bill that would provide funding for the abandoned well and replacement program, and also an outreach information program through OSU, which used to be really active. It was called Home Assist or Farm Assist, HOME-A-SYST, and it was really this comprehensive. I mean, the nerdy people like me would go to those things, right? Like planners, like, oh, that's really cool. Like, don't store your chemicals next to your well pump or your pump house. But that's the sort of information people who live outside of city limit really need to know. So I think 1154 has a little bit of that in it.
if you're building on, I mean, we don't have these large, I don't know, I forget what size acreage these farms are up here. There's the small ones up here.
Mhm,
I don't know if they're all built out,
mhm.
but I know when you sell a piece of, all the real estate I ever sold, you had to test for nitrates in the water. I never knew what happened to those. They went off somewhere. We gave them to the, but anyway. If somebody comes into you and says, okay, I got a bare piece of ground here
Uh-huh,
and I wanna drill a well and put a house in.
mhm.
Do they have to prove that the nitrate is under the, okay, see, that to me, when this all started, I thought, that should be grounded. An automatic right there. You don't get to put a well in if it's polluted.
It's unregulated domestic wells.
It is. It is, and
And the nitrate testing is just disclosure.
it's only disclosure, and as you know, you can't back out of a real estate transaction based on that.
And it's tested on the other side of the filter.
Oh, I had people.
Outside, inside the house or
Yeah.
outside the house.
I had
On
people
the-
accept
on the
property with all kinds
Other
of,
side of the well.
Yeah,
So it goes through the filter, you can take that test at the tap.
Oh, at
If
the
you have
top.
it filter at your sink or in your pump house, the real estate agent can take that test after the filter. So you don't know what your well is. You're getting a test after the filter.
And they're also the state agency that, we didn't even know where that data was, and it was sort of in DEQ's hands, but there's also no enforcement. So good on you if you required that as part of the
I
real
didn't
estate.
find that out after I did 100 of them. Didn't know I didn't have to.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Nothing's gonna-
most of the time down south, of course, you don't get nitrates, you get a call for 'em.
Mhm.
That was a big one, and then you
Big.
shock the well and sell it. Well, everybody did it. I never did it,
they fixed it?
I never did that,
All right.
other people were doing it.
Well, chloroform is,
But
tied with the septics then.
no, we would disclose to the buyer that the
Equalize.
well was shocked or whatever. You know. It was all disclosure, but we didn't run into nitrates down there. Anyway,
I'm just really glad that we're making progress
Me
because
too, yeah, yeah.
we need to be an action committee.
Get her done.
Get her done. Okay, so I tell Brandy if this was on the screen, I'd be doing this right now.
Yeah, is that what you're trying to do?
So there's 71 residences in here,
About, I forget the exact number.
and 100 is taking us this
Mhm.
direction, and
And this includes this too, because this is the
So
subdivision.
you're
that's
saying
your-
that that the city is going to have a different, and then you said something that kind of caught my ear too, was
Well, okay, that's-
in the beginning, this is gonna be the price.
Well, and so,
That was kind of it.
they already have an out of city, rate. They are looking to do a rate review and just see if it's covering everything they need it to cover. And so there might be some adjustment on it, up, they won't lower it so much. But that's available, and, when I say at first, because I mean, as with any utility rates, it could be adjusted in the future. So, I mean, just to say, hey, here's this, and, even if we did something and said, hey, city, here's some money, make sure you don't adjust it for 3 years or something like that, I don't know. I mean,
So the maintenance on these systems that we're thinking about putting in the ground. I mean, it's kind of like building anything, you build it, but then you gotta maintain it and operate it,
and
so.
so there's two ways to go about that, and, this is something that we still have to look at. One thing is, we could create a little bit of district, by the county, where the county owns the infrastructure there and then contracts with Boardman, or does their own water thing. Or we build this, distribution system and then dedicate it to, Boardman, so they own it. And they just own it as an out-of-city extension. Their water rates should have a calculated figure for future infrastructure, replacement and repairs, as well as the monthly, water usage.
Matt, do they provide water to any residential
Mhm.
outside of the city?
There are some, yeah. Already in place, and that's why they have that rate.
Surcharge.
It's a residential out of city rate.
Is it, and obviously higher,
Yeah.
That's pretty standard.
Mhm.
Right, like
gotta go farther.
it was 1.5, but to our industrial area. Right,
Say that again?
that's sewer.
I don't remember.
I think it was 1.5. I just don't know anywhere where they provide water service outside their city limits.
Could be down. Maybe down by Rippey, out that direction. And maybe, they annexed in some of that recently, so maybe that was before they annexed. Although that's pretty much all new.
Cause
though.
I know like the property, there's a couple on Possibly.
So their current, in-city rate, is 1733 base for up to 7,000 gallons. And then after that, it's 0.47 per 1,000 gallons. For out-of-city limits, it's 25.20 for their first 7,000, and then 67 cents per 1,000 after the first 7,000. Now, the biggest thing is as we figure out the things, it's like, keep your well for irrigation. Go ahead and water your lawn with that
Is that 7,000 gallons per month or per day?
per month.
And that's where your calculation and mine were way different, because a domestic well can use 1.5 K per day.
And so, what they figure on is the average utilization for residents is about 15,000 gallons. And so figuring on that, it's about 30 some odd bucks.
And I could take that in the city where you have a small, but where you're irrigating a half an acre, or you're watering livestock, or you're doing anything else, it's going to jump that number incredibly high.
Well, and this is also one thing is if you're just irrigating, use your well water if you'd like to.
Well, that's something that was talked about, was decommissioning those wells though,
Mhm.
to stop the pollution.
I know
And
that's the 11.4, yeah.
yeah, so that was gonna be one of the big questions that the people that I visit with is they're gonna make us hook up to this, and then they're gonna decommission our wells.
Mhm.
And then what are we gonna irrigate with our livestock, our animals, our pastures, our gardens.
1154, if it passes, we'll definitely have a left turn on some of our considerations.
Okay.
And if it passes in that way, if right now rules are, we could say, we're just getting you drinking water. And to make sure when you shower water, drink, cook, you're all using clean water from your tap. For the irrigation water, if you wanna have that and it's hooked up there, go ahead, you're paying that rate. If you wanna continue to use your well,
So that's, I think, gonna be a killer. That's gonna be the stopping point for the whole conversation right there.
You don't think people will want to give up their well?
Why would you? You couldn't afford to irrigate, you couldn't, why live in the camp, why live in the rural area if you can't irrigate your garden or your livestock?
And they can, I mean, and
Okay.
1154 would force that?
It's gonna be $300 or $400 a month. Easily. To do that.
And 1154 would,
There's a little
Why?
bit of it language in there about decommissioning wells, if you hook up to the domestic systems of going in and decommissioning those wells. Now, whether that, we could get around that by casing them and making sure that they're not part of the contamination issue, Oregon Water Resources would probably know the answers to those, but I mean, I don't wanna discontinue my well. There's just no way I'm gonna pay $300 or $400 and on top of that, have my own well, you know? So you still got all your well costs and you've got all your drinking water costs. And it's just going to, it will be the stopping point. I already, you know. The cost is going to. Like I said, it's easy to put it in the ground. Port Morrow can dig a ditch and put a water pipe in, that's not going to be the stopping point. It's going to be the fine details.
mhm.
and that's one of the reasons why we're having some of this public outreach. Is, how many people are out there that would require that? And,
Mhm.
you know, and.
How do we do the public outreach? How do we say, this is what? Okay, we wanna hook you up to this new system. We don't know what it's gonna cost you.
Well,
You know,
we
have to have a pretty darn good idea what it's gonna cost.
Yeah.
them.
Well, we will.
We have to.
And that's part of what
Yeah.
Meyer Engineering is doing, and
Yeah.
then Rev is taking that, and then this is just really. And the Willamette Partnership they did this little, well, it's 15-page paper and, got it down to a 2-page, sort of an analysis based on 4 criteria of other options other than connecting to the city. So Rev is gonna communicate that, and see what the feedback of those residents is.
But if they don't have a cost, how can they give how can you go out and do outreach without knowing?
We do have some cost estimates, but I think the message will be, the consortium is doing everything we can to minimize that initial investment. The ongoing cost, we don't know, and if that's a barrier for some people, then we need to address that. And if at the end of the day, people say, no, I'm okay, I don't want any help, that's their choice.
I just think we have to have that cost down to a really, and if we don't know, if the city doesn't know how much they're gonna charge us,
Well, we have the cost now, if it was a city thing, and we just say they're revising that when we meet again later summer, we'll have a fixed cost.
so at that cost, if a person used their well for their 15,000 gallons a day, what would that?
1,500 gallons a day.
15,000 gallons
15,000
is what
gallons
you
a day.
can, but very few people use 15,000 gallons a day.
Can
That's
I
really
just read
high.
you my water bills? So that you guys have an
Sure.
idea of that?
Yeah, and you did this last time, but you calculated it by the month. We gotta calculate it by the day. These people that have a domestic well and an exempt use can use up to 15,000 gallons a day.
But
For
we're not
free.
talking about their wells.
Exactly.
She's
but if-
comparing the cost.
I'm gonna
to
compare
what
the
city
cost.
Would be.
to that. So you have to calculate 15,000 gallons a day for 30 days.
So the calculation for that, if they wanted to run city water as much as the other, would be, let's see, outside the limits, 0.67 times 8. If you really gonna go 15,000, that'd be plus 25.20 for the base rate, that's $30 a day. And you do it in 30 days, that'd be a $900
Wow.
thing. That's 15,000 gallons a day.
Yep.
Who's using 15,000
We don't
gallons a
know.
day?
Maybe they are, they're irrigating a half an acre.
That's a whole
Uh,
4-person house
But we
plus
need to
a,
talk about their home,
half
their
acre, yeah.
residential drinking water.
Well, that's fine and dandy, you can talk about that all you want, but I don't wanna give up my half acre of irrigation rights.
well, they can still irrigate with their well right now.
But you still have all those costs. And if you're gonna hook up to your system, then you're gonna have two systems, you're gonna run two systems?
Well, I think you have to think about alternatives. You gotta go, okay, we'll put a system out there for you to hook up to for drinking water. Or what? It's, you continue to get free drinking water for the rest of everybody's life. I mean, you have to have an alternative, you know, I mean.
$900. That's
No,
not an
no,
alternative
if
for
they
most
say
people.
no, okay, we don't want nothing to do with it. Do they expect to keep getting the county to deliver them bottled water forever? You know, and will the state continue to pay?
Isn't that
for
an
it?
ultimatum though? That's
No,
not-
no, it's not an ultimatum,
No,
it's
it's
just
about
a,
safe drinking water.
it's a,
It's like an ultimatum, it's like you either
well, what,
pick $900 or you pick drinking water.
I think the difference, an exempt well gives you the right to use that. But most people don't, and I just, whatever Google is worth, the average American household uses about 300 gallons of water a day.
Yeah.
Household, and about
Mine is-
30%,
And yours was how much?
and
500, 430.
are you in Hermiston?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, that's super high. You use how much a day?
Well, right now it says 430, but I turned my water off on Saturday and Sunday.
And that's your entire household, so maybe you're a
There's
little
one
higher.
person in my household.
So the difference is what your exempt well right gives you versus what you'll actually use. And the exempt well is not, you can irrigate a half an acre, so tell me what that computes to irrigate a half an acre, cause if you're using, say, a municipal system for your drinking water. And you retain your well for irrigation, that's a half an acre. Not at half an acre and 15,000 gallons a day. The exempt well does not work that way,
Right.
the way I understand.
15,000 gallons a day you get, that you can put on your half an acre.
No, and half an acre. I just, I just had this, actually, on our county website, one of the, briefing papers we did with the Water Advisory Committee was about domestic drinking water.
Yeah. So it's, you can irrigate up to that amount. You actually can't sell your vegetables. Now they may change that. You can't sell anything off of that. And if you do, then you go back to the commercial side of the
Water right.
Right, and it's 5,000 gallons, which is less. So having an exempt well is very important to most people in a rural area. And you know, we don't know what they put on their half acre.
Right.
If
that's right.
if you're using that much in Hermiston, I don't know how much.
Which Hermiston has an app. It tells you how much you use a day, how much you use a
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
So
So I'm just pulling up.
I don't
some
have a
of my bills.
small yard, but I don't have half an acre. But I'm not in what the lots are now, those tiny little things.
Yeah.
I mean, and I have several houses, and one of them used 3,000 gallons
A day
for the month.
for the month.
For the month. My total bill for water, sewer, and garbage was $66 for that.
And so one of the things, I mean, yes, technically they could run 15,000 gallons per day. Part of the outreach is to say, how many are you running that much? Is it just providing your house? Drive through West Glen, there's people with some animals, there's some people with some things, there's some people with no yard at all. They're just using their well for their house.
And it's like 3,000 a week. It's, I mean, 4,000 most. In my house, this like normally
Yeah.
38.88, and this is 3,000, but I turned my water off on Saturday and Sunday because it was raining.
And that's a week.
A
So
week.
you're using
12 to
12,000.
15,000, yeah. So, I mean, these are the discussions we're hoping to have. in that, and we might get someone who comes and says, I got 15,000. Well, let's pull aside and figure out how that works on a daily basis for you and how we need to get this set up. Would love to have those discussions. I need to get to the point to have those discussions because we are adjusting some of these on common, average usages by households with a certain size yard. And I mean, even coming from my past municipality had 1 acre lots. Most people only watered the first fifth and the rest was just pastured out dry areas. So they weren't using 15,000. They have the right to do it, like you said. How many people are willing to say, we want clean water, we're okay keeping our well, or we're okay getting rid of our well, or we need both. That'll be a good conversation too, and we just want to get to that point.
I just wanna make sure that, that those wells aren't being shut down and if
Our
any
plan,
case-
our plan is not to shut down the wells at this point.
Right.
There's no contingency to say you have to shut down your well.
Well, okay, but we're going to Salem when we're lobbying on these items that we wanna do. We darn sure better make sure that that's one of those items that comes out of 1154 that says, we're gonna need both connections. Instead of, Oregon Water
But we're not
Resources
gonna
coming in.
regulate their well,
No, and I'm not saying that, we're not,
right?
but the state might.
Is that says that in 1154? I just downloaded it.
It's really kind of nebulously languaged
Yes,
and
it is. So it's something that we as a board need to start looking at, because if that comes down, then, we're shutting down wells.
Yeah,
County
if that goes, you're not gonna get anybody to go.
That's
like
right.
that. No,
That's why I keep saying that
okay.
as a body, that 1154 is very important, and we need to be sitting down there in that rules committee. One of us, somebody, we should be on that rules committee, and we're not.
Isn't that just legislators on that rules committee?
I don't think so. I think
I
you
think,
can,
I think they'll go, after a law is passed, then it goes to a rulemaking.
well, they're in rules right now with
But that's the-
1154, and there's
Mhm.
actually a rules committee that's
Hmm.
in on it, and we're not in on it. And it's gonna affect us.
Why would the state single out certain wells to shut down? I mean, they're not gonna put that blanket wide, statewide.
No,
Oh.
only if they're saying decommissioning wells. So if we,
That's
we
what I'm
hook,
saying.
so if we hook up into a municipal system, then they wanna come in and decommission those wells.
Well-
Because they have an idea that they probably maybe contamination, or they're not cased, or they're old, or they're whatever. So they wanna go in and make sure that they're not part of the problem. I'm assuming that's why that's in there. I mean, I can go talk to Owens and ask him why that was in there.
If you're hooked up to the city
Well, as they
system, your
should,
well
right?
has
I mean,
nothing
that's,
to do with
we
it.
need to know
It's
that
not gonna
information.
contaminate your city system water. I mean, it's totally,
Of course, it's gonna contaminate your city system. It's all the same water.
no,
It's Columbia
No.
River water.
No,
Ordinance.
Well,
Portland's
Boardman's,
water
but
doesn't have nitrate. in it.
Oregon's isn't. Of course it does. It's 7.8.
except Oregon wants to,
Well,
bunch
that's,
of wells up
maybe
above.
it does, but that's under the limit. That's what we're talking about here.
The
Under
state
the-
limit is 7, the
Yeah.
federal is 10.
Yeah.
Well, then the whole city of Boardman is out of compliance. Then why even bother hooking anybody up? Cause you're still gonna get the same too high a concentrate.
Oh, there's those questions. Stanfield's in the same boat.
Wow.
Hat Rock is in their municipal system. The system at the fish hatchery is over. It's all the same water. We can't seem to get that through cities are gonna be affected just as much as rural people are. And that's coming if it doesn't get cleared up. I mean, we could have, so we have the rainy wells or whatever that go in, but they've also been adjusted just when they started going up and up and up in nitrates, they adjusted them to more Columbia River water and more Columbia River water. And so they are now cleaning Columbia River water more so than they're pumping out of the aquifer. And that was in a public meeting, I don't know, last year sometime. Mr. Lees came in and did that presentation. And I talked to Oregon Water Resources at that time, and there's like, yeah, we're just adjusted our draining well from sucking so much out of the aquifer. And now we're taking more Columbia River water, which requires more chlorination, more processes. and those type of things. But we're not fixing the problem, we're band-aiding it, but it could spill over into the municipalities, which, you know, naturally occurring, it's 0.003, and we're up in the 5, 6, 7s. The well in the city limits there he's 7.9. He's above the state limit. And that's right in the city. So, you know, it's just, where are we gonna find clean water? We're gonna be pumping the whole entire thing out of the Columbia because it's diluted. Because the aquifers are contained and the Columbia isn't. And it's gonna be big issues.
I found another water bill. This one is 11,000 gallons for the month. This one has a big yard. The breakdown for water, it's $19.21. Even if it was 1.5, it's $30 a month for safe drinking water from the city. This is doable through a public system.
If you wanna give up your rural lifestyle.
Kelly, this has got nothing to do with the well. This is safe drinking water to a home.
Well, I know.
I mean, this is what we're here for.
Yeah, I mean. There's other groups looking at the aquifer. And we're looking at that mid-range level of get past the bottled waters, get them safe water. You're right, the nitrates in the aquifer and throughout the areas is a big issue.
But you're trying to sell it to these people, so we gotta have some way we're gonna sell it. You wouldn't sell that to me.
Well, I think, Rev is not going out to sell anything. They're going out to listen. And we were told by the governor and Casey Sixkiller, we haven't done enough outreach, and that's why we're doing this. They're going out to listen and to share information we have. And if people have those specific concerns, what we don't want to do is to have all of it figured out and then say, here's your option. So there will be an iterative process. It's not a one and done meeting. Rev is going to go out, say, this is the information we have. The CWC and the city is willing to work together to provide you clean drinking water. Is this okay? What other information do you need? And
To provide a source of clean drinking water.
to provide a source, yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, but we're not gonna resolve all of it right now, but Rev is going out to start that dialogue, to see what those issues are. But I fully respect that there are pieces of it that we haven't fully thought through. And I think that's what you're saying right now is what's gonna happen with those existing wells, and I really don't know. The county and the city and the CWC, we have nothing to do with it. State law is very clear. Only Water Resources Department regulates wells and water use.
And I will say, I mean, while we're not in the business for regulating wells, if we get to the point where we can get a system that is either a public system there or hooking into the city system that provides clean water, the only requirement we would have is that well has to be disconnected from that system that the clean water is gonna be in.
Oh, definitely.
So, I mean, that's the only regulation we're gonna require
because you were
is
in backflow.
if our
backflow,
plumbing's
yeah.
coming in,
You have
that
backflow.
plumber's disconnecting your well from that. You can
Yeah.
keep it hooked up to irrigation, but not to the house. I'll just tell you, that's the only regulation we're looking at right now for
And that's
particularly
gonna be
West Coast.
costly just to do that as well.
It will be.
To
So,
hook your system back to your irrigation system or your outside system or however you wanna do it. There's gonna be.
There's a lot of knowledge that we need to gather here.
Another reason why we'd like to have somebody like Ronan on contract to provide, crunch the numbers and do the design work for us. Oh, Kelly does a pretty good job.
Are we working on that? Get somebody under contract?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I thought you were, but we never talked about it, so
we'll be bringing that in the next few meetings.
good,
So
good.
give me bylaws and let me get you a budget. and we'll get going.
Sounds like
One step at a time.
got a little extortion
You
going
want
on
my
here.
No budget.
Oh, darn. One step down. So, yeah, we'll be getting there. And we don't need to wait until the full budget process is, but, that will be a component.
I didn't we already spend money? We spent, companies. Use that money today. Post
Yeah.
office box.
Okay, any other business to come up? We got our next meeting's,
Yes.
right, okay. All right, we can call the meeting adjourned then, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good discussion.
Well.
Oh,